So thank you all so much. As I shared when people were logging on, this is a new platform for us. So we greatly appreciate all of your patience and possibly fumbling through some of these things. Just a quick agenda. We're going to do an overview of Therap. We're going to do an overview of billing and then scheduling. And at the end, we'll take time for questions and answers. So just a brief introduction to let you know who is on the phone. I'm Julie. I'm the business development consultant for Virginia. We have Tony Ann, who is the billing specialist for Virginia. And we have Mimi, who is the training and implementation specialist for EVV and scheduling in Virginia. Is that correct, Mimi? You still support some providers in Virginia, correct?
Yes, I still do have some on my list.
Okay. So just a brief overview of Therap. Therap is a SaaS system, which is a service as a software, and a COT system, which means commercial off the shelf. It's a great system to capture real-time documentation for reporting, record keeping, and you can access it wherever you have internet or data, such as your smartphones or tablets. It was established in 2003 by a group of partners, one of whom currently continues to be a provider up in Connecticut. The idea was they wanted to come up with a paperless system in which they could increase accountability, communication, and risk management, save the agency time and money, and really focus on providing that higher quality care for the individuals that they are supporting. Something unique to Therap is that everyone that works for Therap has been in the industry in one capacity or another, whether it's been the IDD, mental health, aging, early intervention. We've all been human service providers. Therap really believes it's important that they are recruiting people from the industry because we understand the practical application and can offer you the best possible supports. Everything at Therap in the system is accessible by what we call user privileges. So whether you're a direct support professional or super user, executive board or auditor, you have different accessibility based on what you choose as a provider. I'm just going to scroll through this. We're currently supporting over 7,000 providers. We're in every state in the United States. And in Virginia, we continue to grow by leaps and bounds. We have over 140 providers using Therap. We have a partnership with the Virginia Network of Private Providers, and we have a direct connection to Build DMAS, which Tony Ann and the billing team worked really hard to do. So I'm excited for her to share that information. The reason why we're talking about scheduling, as you know or may not know, the Cures Act went into effect, and Virginia chose to go ahead and move forward, having everybody connect by September 1. So this is very important that if you fall under the Virginia mandate of your services being connected, that you do need to be connected regarding the scheduling and EVV. So that is just a brief overview of Therap and who we are and what we do. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Mimi. If I can stop sharing here. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that I have the right screen up. So welcome everyone to our Virginia Billing Scheduling EVV user group. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to hang out with us on a Friday morning. We're hoping that most of the information that we provide to you today is helpful. If you feel that you need some additional assistance or if you just simply need maybe like a playback of the information that we've covered, just go ahead and reach out to us and we will furnish that to you. Just to get a little bit of information, can you all see my screen? If Julie or Tony Ann could let me know.
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I see we still have some people who are attending, which is awesome. I'm going to jump right into my dashboard just to give you a little bit of background information as far as the scheduling EVV. What happens with the scheduling EVV is there's a little bit of setup that needs to take place, okay? I know that everyone's so eager to get it up and running, but they don't realize that there's a couple of things that needs to happen from a billings perspective. Even if you're not billing through Therap, there's still a billing part that is connected to your scheduling EVV, which is the service codes and service authorizations. So those are things that needs to be actually created in the system, okay? If you do have billing on your invoice, you would then meet up with Tony Ann. Then Tony Ann would pass you over to me, and then we would go ahead and meet up and set up your scheduling EVV module. So just to show you really quick, from your admin tab, you would need to actually put in things like your description codes, okay, which are actually linked to those services that you're providing to the individuals, depending on, for the state of Virginia, which are those services that are EVV mandated, okay? So you would be creating service codes. Once you have entered in all of your service codes, then what you want to do is jump into your billing tab or your billing section, okay? And then you want to create those service authorizations that are linked to the individuals, okay? And this is where you're going to put in that begin date and end date for that service authorization, okay? You would then add a service, meaning linking that service code right in here, along with that additional information. If you're looking to receive some notifications whenever that service authorization is going to expire, okay? So there's a little bit of foundation work that needs to take place prior to the scheduling module. Once that is actually created in your accounts and as part of your action steps as a provider, okay? If you are interested in using the scheduling EVV and you want to start your setup, please make sure that the provider or the admin that you're assigning that project to, that they are familiar with putting in things like service codes and service authorizations, okay? We always ask that for that first initial setup to make sure that at least you have someone's service codes or service authorizations handy so that when we're walking you through that step-by-step process, you get the feel of it, you get comfortable with it, and then once we're done, we actually give you some action steps to continue to put in the rest of that information on your own so that you become confident with using that piece. Always making sure that in order for that person who's going to be that scheduling admin, from your admin tab, okay, and I'll just jump into a privilege. Admin tab, user privileges, I'll click on myself, okay. You would want to make sure that the person who's going to be putting in things like the service codes, that they actually have that billing admin turned on, okay? And if it's the same person who's going to be creating those schedules or those who will be delegated the task to create the schedules, that they have the scheduling admin also turned on, okay? Julie, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mimi.
Okay, I just want to make sure, okay? Then once you've actually turned that on, you would then click save. Of course, if you meet up with Tony Ann will always run you through making sure that your privileges are turned on correctly in order to put in service codes and service authorizations. And if not, when you meet up with me, we always go through the super roles. So we always make sure that permissions are turned on correctly before we can move on with with creating anything in your account. Another thing you want to make sure to turn on is within the super roles section, okay? And we get a lot of providers who get confused when it comes to super roles. I like to think of super roles as if it were kind of like a ticket to a concert, okay? So everyone's going to join the concert, but everyone's going to have certain access to that concert. You might have people in the front row. You might have people in the back rows. You might have people in the nosebleeds, and you might have people who have access to go backstage, okay? So think of it as far as who needs to see what, and based on who needs to see what, those are the permissions that you turn on. For the scheduling EVV module, okay, And I'll also show you the list of roles. This is all alphabetical order. So those who could actually, you want them to view their schedules, you want to give them scheduling view. Okay, they can go in, they can view those schedules. They can also see other staff members who are scheduled to work with the same individuals who are on their caseload. Schedule edit allows them to create schedules. So you would need to make sure that you know exactly who needs what permission when it comes to the scheduling module in this super role. I'm going to jump into the help and support site really quick just to show this wonderful user guide that's called List of Roles. And what's nice about the list of roles, for those who get confused with admin roles and super roles, this actual user guide, okay, has links to all of those permissions. Okay. So if you're interested or you need to know a little bit more about what is that, which one do I need to turn on for scheduling? What are those permissions that Mimi mentioned? I totally forgot. Write this down if you have a sticky note or a pen handy. Write down list of roles. Visit the support home in Therap, okay, the support home site. Type in list of roles. Let it give you this list. And based on the module, when you click on the link, it's going to open up and let you know. The schedule view gives you these permissions to search and view approved schedules from the individuals tab in the dashboard. And then the schedule edit permissions will allow that user to create, edit, and approve caseload specific individual and program based schedules. So this will let you know what you need to turn on for your staff. Okay. If you still need some assistance, then feel free to go ahead and just reach out to your TNI specialist, and they'll go ahead and furnish that information to you, or visit us on Live Help. Have a quick chat. We'll go ahead and send you the link. And we might even give you a little bit of additional information so that you can go ahead and give those absolute correct privileges to your staff. Once you've turned on those privileges, then you would just simply come down to the bottom right and click Save. Okay. Now, as far as the scheduling admin, that's the person who's in charge of building your scheduling module from the ground up. Okay. You got to create that foundation. So from the admin tab, you would come all the way down to the bottom and you will have your scheduling section. You have to configure your provider setup as well as your staff and your individual. And I won't take too much time because I tend to dive in a little bit further into details. But if you have any questions, feel free to use that little chat box or the question on your Samba screen over to the left-hand side. You click on those three dots. Click on either the chat or the question mark, submit that, and Tony Ann or Julie will be more than happy to answer those questions, or they'll just send it out to me and I'll answer it for you. In that scheduling piece where it says provider, this is where you're going to do some of that configuration, okay, from the ground up again. What is that service week start date for your organization? When does that pay week start date start? Okay, in order for you to change this, so let's say if our service week start day is a Sunday, but our pay week actually starts on a Friday, this needs to be changed under your provider preference section. And I'll show you really quick. I don't want to confuse you, but I need to show you where this is. In order to change this date here, you have to go back onto your dashboard, come up to the top where it says provider preference, over to the right preferences, okay? And then just change it right here, okay? Making that change here, scrolling down and saving will change it in your scheduling piece. Once you've made that change, always whenever you apply a permission or privilege or you've made a change, I always recommend my providers to come into that privileges section and refresh your screen so that it acknowledges any of those changes that you had just checked off, okay? Any of those permissions. This way, when I come back down here to my scheduling provider configure section, if I change that Monday to a Sunday, I'll be able to see that Sunday right here. I didn't change anything here because this is a demo account and we all tend to go in and dive and play around. So I don't want to make any changes if Tony Ann set this, especially for her billing. So your pay week start date, checkable service. So this is where you're going to say, these are the services that I'm going to allow staff, okay, that they could do a self-check-in. So maybe staff has an understanding with that guardian or that provider, okay, or that sponsor home. And maybe they flip around schedules. Maybe I need you to come in and work, Monday and Wednesday, but then next week I need you to do a Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe you as a provider, you don't want to always have to create a schedule. So you can leave it open, meaning self-check-inable service, so that when staff shows up, they're actually flexible to just click it and say, I'm checking in to provide services. And they could leave a little note and say, Mom, change the schedule, or maybe Mom, guardian didn't need me till 10 o'clock as opposed to 8 o'clock in the morning, those kinds of things. So if you're looking to kind of like hand over a little bit of that control to those services that already have an understanding with the guardian or mom or dad and staff, then you would want to turn those on. In order for this list to be populated here, you have to have in your service codes. Okay, those service codes have to be created. And it is as simple as you just saying, I want that companion services to go ahead and be a self-checkable service, maybe that personal care. So you get to check off all of those. And again, this is not specific to a staff member. This is specific to the service. The default slot duration is just basically saying if you wanted to create a quick schedule, okay, it'll default to a 1 hour, but you can click and drag and make it a longer shift. The daily work hour limits, this is basically you just saying as an organization, daily work hour limits are maybe 8, 12, or 16. Doesn't prevent you from changing a schedule or having someone work past their 8 hours. It just gives you kind of like an estimation. Mimi has already worked, 8 hours out of X amount. Weekly work hour limit, just to be able to give you an estimation again. Enable multiple services, and that's for those individuals who have throughout that one shift, maybe they have 2 services, maybe it's personal care, and then the next one is in-home supports. So staff could say, I'm doing 2 hours of personal care, then they get to check out and check in under that other service. The web check-in enabled, meaning maybe staff lost their phone, okay? But they can still check in through a computer at the location because you've web check-in enabled your configuration. So staff could actually get a hold of a tablet or a computer and they could log into their Therap and check in. And if you enable that location, it'll also geolocate where they are, okay? Disable strict addresses for those times where it's really hard to get that pin drop depending on where that location is. Okay, but again, if you're looking to be EVV, follow those EVV requirements, then maybe that's something that you don't want to check off. And then you would just simply click on save. That's part 1 of your foundation setup. Okay. Second part, back on my admin tab, all the way at the bottom, staff manage. This is where I get to make it more specific to the staff that's providing services. Okay. So if I go into mine, I can say Mimi will be a part of that scheduling grid for my scheduling EVV service, okay? I can also enable the self-scheduling for Mimi. So Mimi, through that permission, is able to go into those services listed below and just do a self-check-in without me creating a schedule for her. Because maybe Mimi has an understanding with the parent or guardian at that location. They flip around those schedules. So I can go ahead and turn that on. Then right below, this is where you want to say, these are the services that Mimi will be providing support in, as well as doing a self check-in. Okay. Daily work hour limit, again, I could say she only works 8 hours a day, and maybe for the week, she does 20. Well, I'll just say 40, right? Let's keep it more realistic, 40. Again, it's just going to give you an estimation that out of the 8 hours for the day, Mimi has so far worked 4 hours, okay? Or for the week, she's worked 25 out of the 40. And then just simply click on save, okay? You would want to configure this for all of your employees. Going back to my dashboard, last but not least, coming down to that individual section, when I click on manage, this is where I want to go ahead and say, these are the individuals that are going to be a part of that scheduling EVV grid, okay? You can choose, select those that are listed. You can choose to just click on a select all, meaning it'll just highlight all of them and then click save. Once your service codes, your service authorizations are in, you've configured all of your provider setup for your scheduling module. Okay, and that's part of the initial setup. We have this conversation with you all. Second call is basically showing you this is now where you get to go in and create those schedules from your agency tab. So your scheduling is going to be located under your agency tab. So you can create, you can edit, you can create templates, you can search offline events. Release schedule is for those, let's say, Julie is inside of the scheduling grid and she's creating some schedules and she forgot to log out and I need to get in and maybe pull those same staff members and individuals that she's working with. I can go ahead and release her from the schedule so that I can go ahead and create mines. But just to show you, I'm going to click on create a schedule. There goes the program. Click on next. There goes my individual. Click on next. And then I could say, this is the staff that's working with Ethan. Okay. Or I can choose all of the staff and go to next. All right. Over at the top right, just to give you an overview, this is the actual scheduling grid. Top left are color-coded icons or color-coded boxes with different meanings. So you have your draft, which is the gray box. And that's basically when you're creating a schedule, okay? But you're saving it. You're saving it and you're not actually approving it, okay? So that's why it's going to show up in gray. If I double click here, I can open this up and just, let me move this over. I need to hide this here. I can just delete that, okay? Approved means I can go ahead and create a schedule. I have my individual, okay? The program, I could link the service. Mimi's the staff. And again, there goes that estimation of 0 hours worked out of the 8 that's linked for Mimi, as well as the 0 hours that she's worked for out of the 40 hours for the week. Okay, so I'm going to choose Mimi's working with Ethan. Okay, if there was a second service, this is where I could go ahead and add that second service. The start address pulls over from the IDF. Okay, if the start address is something different, then you would want to go ahead and just plug that in. Okay, it allows you to just type that in. The pin drop, start location. This is where you get to say, I want it to say that she is exactly at this address providing services. So I'll use this location and address. There goes that longitude, latitude. So it's letting you know that this is exactly when Mimi clocks in, this should match. Okay. If the end address is different, again, you could type in an end address. Or again, if the end address is the address from the IDF, I can just choose that address and it'll give it that pin drop. Okay. If I need to communicate something to staff, I could use this 200 character just to communicate information to my staff. This is not where staff is putting in, work on all these goals or ISP data collection. This is just communication between the scheduler and the staff. And I can click approve. It's still kind of like that funny beige color, but if I click anywhere outside of that, it's going to give me that blue, letting me know that it is approved. So I have all of the components that are needed for an approved schedule. If I approve a schedule without a staff, okay, so again, I'm clicking and dragging. I'm selecting a service. I'm going to leave the staff section blank. I'm going to go down and approve it. And I click anywhere outside of that box, you'll see that it will turn in a pink color. That means that it's approved without a staff member. What's nice about this is that I can go ahead and take this schedule and I can SCOM it, meaning send that internal email to staff saying, is anybody available to take that schedule? Okay. Delete that slot right there. Okay. And now if staff have checked in to a slot, it'll give you that kind of mustard yellow color, okay, that is complete. They've checked in, they haven't checked out. And then the green one is basically they've checked in and they've checked out and it's completed, okay? That's where you'll able to go into the report library and run those reports that I'm going to show you in a bit. I don't want to take up all of the time. If you're looking to create those schedules and then copy them on to the next week, you have options like bulk copy. Every time you bulk copy, you want to make sure that you bulk approve. You can create some of those templates. Okay, so maybe this is the same schedule that's going to always happen. I don't want to have to select a staff, a place, and a person every time, I can create templates and just pull those templates in so that it always pulls in the same staff, same service, same schedule. Okay. You can view this from a staff's perspective. Okay. You can view it from the individual's scheduling. Okay. If it was a program, which you'll see EVV services, you can view a week schedule. And what's nice about this is that you could also see a month schedule, right? And just by hovering over, you'll see who's actually the staff that will be working with that individual. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of those reports. And again, this is something that we walk you through step by step to make sure that you're comfortable with your scheduling module. From your agency reports tab, you have your report library. Over to the right-hand side, you would just click on view and simply type in the title scheduling and the report name and click on search. What's nice about this is that you have a couple of reports. Okay. You have a weekly staff report. And I may have to go back, maybe, I don't know. Let's see what we got for July. July to August 1st. Okay. I'm pushing the buttons here. Oop, sorry. That's what happened. Living in the future here. Continue. Okay. So there goes that weekly staff report. You have your staff. If you have an employee ID number that you put within their personal details section, that will be displayed. The start of the week, staff's time zone, scheduled hour, the worked hour, weekly work hour limits, and has worked over weekly limit. So it actually lets you know if this person has maybe some overtime hours. I can go back one, or maybe go all the way back. Here goes your detail slot report. And let's see, I'll do August 1st till the 21st. Okay. And now your detailed slot report is going to give you additional information. Okay. All of these reports you could export to Excel. And I don't want to go too quick to the right, but I'll go ahead and use my little tab over. And you'll see that it'll show you the slot start date, the start time, the end time, right? If staff checked in, right? So the check-in date, the check-in time. If it was actually updated, maybe there was some changes that needed to be made. The checkout time. It'll also show you that scheduled duration, because that's basically the one that we're really looking for, right? How many hours did they really work? So out of the 2 hours, staff work duration showing me 0. Okay. There was any exceptions or any variances, you'll see that there. So this is one of those reports that you would probably want to take a look at. And also to make sure that those addresses are matching depending on what you've actually put into the system and what was actually captured when they checked in. Okay. Let's see here. Ooh, I went all the way back out. My apologies if I'm making anyone dizzy. I'm going to go back into here. Then you also have things like your EVV staff setup report. You also have the basic slot report. What I've seen providers always reach out for is basically the detailed slot report, the one that I showed you, and a weekly staff report. Another thing I want to show you, but before I actually hand this over to Tony Ann, is that when if staff does not have the mobile app, or they don't have the phone accessible to them for them to check in, from their actual dashboard, this is where that checking in is going to take place. Okay, so that you can let them know. This is where they would be checking in. And they could also do a self-check-in right here. But as I mentioned, we will walk you through this step by step. What I do ask is that whenever we are setting you up for your scheduling module, to please always reach out with any questions that you may have. Don't go a week or two without reaching out to us. And if you see that, hey, I sent maybe out an email and I haven't got a hold of her, go to Life Help. There's always someone standing by willing to assist. Okay. Okay, there we go. And then I can say that I'm checking in. It'll geolocate. I can confirm. And then I'm done. Any questions?
Just a comment. If you have to be EVV compliant, you will need to check in and out via a mobile app.
Yes, mobile app, but we've also made it enabled within the actual computer. So as long as you, bear with me one moment, let me jump into here. If you are turning on that web check-in, enable the location tracking for that web check-in from the computer. Okay. Also, I wanted to show you within the Therap, we have a link that's called States. I want you to know that Virginia, you guys have your own Virginia state page in Therap. So feel free to visit states, click on Virginia, okay? And then take a look at what Therap has to offer the state of Virginia, some of the things that are coming up that sometimes we get some inside information, some intel that we like to always let providers know, hey, this is what's coming down the pipelines. Maybe you guys want to, get a hold of things ahead of time. Go ahead and visit the state page, okay? Things like how to set up your account in Therap. You can see the link to the actual user group that we're hosting right now. Okay, some additional information. Then you also have your Therap Virginia team members right here. There goes Julie. Okay. All right. At this point, I will go ahead and hand it over. Tony, you can go ahead and take the screen.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome.
Great.
And let me know when you guys can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, I'm going to take that as a yes. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So I have a quick little slideshow. Hope everybody's doing good today. And if you have any questions, please feel free, like Mimi and Julie said, put that question in the question box. Currently on your claims, before EVV, before our developers developed this specific rules for Virginia, you had your type of service, which was your service description code, your individual receiving the services, which is in the service authorization.
Tony Ann, I'm sorry to interrupt, but they can't see your screen. Can you enlarge it? I think
Sure.
if you click on it, it should open up. If you click on the actual one that you're sharing.
Is it not showing?
Okay. So for those who are on the call, just click on the actual the tab and it'll open that up for you. You're good where you are, Tony Ann. They just needed to click on the little tile.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So you currently had on your claims the service description code, the individual receiving the services, and then the date of service. Now, the additional information that will be added for your EVV claims is that location of service that's captured at the check-in, check-out, which Mimi just explained. The staff that is providing that service that's also captured in that check-in, check-out. The begin time and end time of the service delivery that's captured at the check-in and check-out. Here's a quick summary of the Virginia rules as per DMAS. So as of October 1st, 2020, these are your codes, the service codes that are EVV mandated. You have your personal care code, the respite services code, and companion services. It's also required that the staff service provider has their first name, last name, and their EVV ID captured as well. Another unique situation with Virginia is that the 76 modifier is required when submitting the same HCPC code for the same day of service for that second EVV visit. That 76 modifier must be added to that second visit, which is really great that our developers did is it's hard-coded in. So and I'll show you what kind of needs to be set up in the background, but you as providers do not have to add that 76 modifier in your description code. Once the system sees that there's that first visit and then the second visit for that same exact service, it will be hard coded into your claim. Also for your claims, the EVV session, each session is one line of billing, and only the billing units should be submitted on the claim. The provider is required to retain the record of the visit to substantiate the total units worked. Any questions so far? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so for Virginia, you also have two additional unique situations when billing. You have the rollover and you have the rounding. So if there are minutes of a service provided left over from a previous visit in excess of 60 minutes that are accrued in minutes, they can be added to the next visit to help them create that whole hour of service. And then your rounding rules occur once at the end of the month. If the previous unbilled minutes are more than 30 minutes, the units can be rounded up and add an additional unit that can be billed. If the previously unbilled minutes are less than 30 minutes, the time is rounded down and cannot be billed. If you use Therap for billing and you bill on a monthly basis, the system will automatically do the rounding rule where it will round that last day of the month. All right, so I'm gonna hop into the service description code. And we also have an EVV guide that outlines everything for Virginia EVV setup. But like Mimi said, I would suggest definitely meeting with myself and Mimi so we can assist you with the setup. And if you have any specific questions, we can address those questions. So in your companion services, you're gonna list your service description here, that service code, the unit of measure as hourly, that unit rate. Your ICD-10 code can be something like F70 because in Virginia, it's not specific to the individual. Some states they are when billing. And this is the most important part for Virginia EVV is that this Virginia EVV service needs to be selected to yes. If this is not selected to yes, then all that development and hard coding in the background with the 76 modifier, the rolling of the units and the rounding up will not work correctly. So this is the most important part on that service description code, as well as this automatic unit calculation from time in, time out. This is also in the guide. It has to be set to 1 hour. The rounding algorithm has to be set to down, and the smallest allowed increment has to be set to 60 minutes. And again, this is specific just to your EVV codes. Okay, I'm gonna hop over to the unit calculation. And again, this is EVV specific again. And for the unit calculation rule, this is also hard-coded. So when I select EVV, Virginia EVV, I can't change these radio buttons. So it will automatically bundle for each session, use that time in, time out, and use the duration for each day. If you needed to create a different calculation rule for a different type of billing, we can absolutely do so, but this is specific to Virginia EVV. And then another piece that's set up in the admin tab or the billing section is that duration calculation rule. And it is suggested to use that actual time worked for Virginia EVV. I'm going to hop into the service authorization. I know Mimi touched on it a little bit, but let me just go ahead and show you what it looks like. So here's Ethan Williams, and we're saying that his begin date that he's authorized for is January 1st, 2020. I know usually it's like not January, it's July 1st, and then your end date is June 30th, 2021. This service coordinator section is where you would put that support coordinator in there. Again, you cannot bill for EVV if there's not a service authorization in place, because we need to know what services you want to bill for. So you'll add that service here. And we are saying that we're going to bill for companion services at an hourly rate. This is your total billable units for that whole entire year. So we're saying he has 5,000 units. And this is that total authorized amount. If you were to bill for every single day, every single hour, this is your total output that you would expect. This F70 carried over from that service description code. Here for Virginia, you want to put your PA number in. That's very important. If that's not in, you can get a denied claim. And then here for your method of data collection, you want to select EVV. That unit calculation rule comes into play, and then that duration calculation comes into play. Here's that rounding that came from that service description code, the 1 hour down 60 minutes. And then this authorized units per period, this is showing how many units you're expecting on a daily basis. So you're saying that this individual may be working but maybe utilizing 5 hours per day and 35 hours per week. When you're setting this up, the validation does need to be set to ignore. You cannot select any one of these other radio buttons. It has to be ignored for the EVV setup for Virginia. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of here. I do have some billing data that I did for March. So I would just go to my EVV billing, and I want to show you that billing process and how smooth the process is. It was for companion care, and I had checked in, checked out for that whole month. Now, when you're utilizing Therap for EVV billing, and you're doing it for that monthly date range, and you want the system to round up automatically for you, you're going to do it from the very first of the month to the very last day of the month. So if it was December 31st and the individual didn't didn't receive services because it was a holiday, you still want to have the 31st in there as the end date. So this shows me who's available to generate billing data for EVV. So I'm going to go ahead and select on Ethan's name, generate that billing data. And then on this page, it generated all the billing data for March for the whole entire month. And on March 4th, I had 2 different days, right? I had two different slots, or 2 different check-in, check-outs. So if I go ahead and open up this billing data, you can see that procedure modifier, that 76, is hard-coded in. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to put it on that service description code. It just knew, the system knew that was the second slot of the day, the second check-in, check-out, and it knew that it needed to have that 76 modifier on that claim. Also, I want to show you that the last day of the month, the 28th, right? Even though we didn't have any services on the 31st, the 28th is the last day of the month. At the very bottom, your billing data is going to show that it's going to half up round at the end of the month. Okay? So all that information is on the billing data. If you ever want to, schedule a session and really kind of dig deep into the billing data, we can absolutely do so. I also recommend, whenever you create billing data, before creating claims, running a couple of reports. And if some of you folks on the line are billing with me, you know that I love my reports. So one of those reports is that billing data summary report. You can do that billing data create date, which would have been today's date, or you can do the service date, which was from March 1st, 2020 until March 31st, 2020. Okay.
Was 77 modifier work if you have a third sign in out by staff?
Say that one more time for me, Julie. You just broke up a little bit.
Sure. Does a 76 modifier work if you have a third sign in out by staff?
Yes, I think it's anytime after the second check in, check out, you have to have the 76 modifiers on your claims. So I believe it's, yes, I can double check too. And if you could just grab that email for me, I will definitely follow up with them. Okay, so on here, you're selecting your service date from and to. And then here you can add like what you're looking for on this report. I just typically add all because I want to see everything. And all our reports in the billing tab are able to export to Excel, but I'm just going to show you in a quick glance what this report shows. It shows you your service description code. It shows you your individual's name, who entered this information, your funding source. It shows you when the service authorization, when the billing data was created. And this is the service authorization begin date and end date. The billing data ID, your dates of service, your unit rate, your prior authorization number. I love this report because if you forgot to put that prior authorization number in, then you can see that before you send out those claims that prior authorization number does need to be in there. How many units you're billing for. If you do have that procedure modifier, there's that 76. How much of the total that you're billing. So this one here didn't have enough units, so it didn't, it wasn't enough to bill, but it does roll over to the next day. The remaining units. And then the most beneficial part on this report is that claim ID and the status of that claim. So if you don't have a claim ID here, that means you didn't create that claim for those individuals. So that's the billing data summary report. I'm going to show you the utilization report real fast. So we're going to pick that companion care service. We're going to look for March 1st until March 31st. And here, this will show you all your individuals that have that same service description code. So if I had 10 individuals that had companion services, it will show me all 10 of those individuals. So again, it shows you that prior authorization number, and it shows me which days I was able to generate billing for and how many units, how many hours. And again, this can export to Excel, and I would recommend that formatted report. I'm going to scroll over all the way to the right. And it shows me that I have a total of 7 units, and my total that I plan to bill is $112.91. So this is a great report to use to see a quick snapshot. It doesn't show you if you have a claim ID or anything like that, but I show both of those reports to my providers. The next step would be to create a claim. So here I would pick my companion services. Go ahead and do again from March 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2020. And Virginia is single service line per claim, so you want to make sure that you select that box. Go ahead and click next. Find that individual's name, and then generate claims. You always want to see these green check marks, which means that you created those claims. And then that last step is the claim submission, and you can do either send or bulk send. Send is up to 100 claims at a time. Bulk send is up to 1,500 claims at a time. Here is what Julie was talking about with that direct payer. We have that direct connection with Virginia Medicaid. And you can go ahead and put that service date or the claim create date. Today, I just want to show you, that claim create date to switch it up a little bit. But if you don't feel comfortable or you don't remember when you created those claims, you can always default to that service date. Go ahead and click search. And then here's those claims. And you would just click send. I'm not going to send them because they just stay in a queued status because this is a demo account. So we're not physically sending anything to DMAS. But that's pretty much the claim process all in all. I do have that guide up too. Like Mimi was saying, we have that support page for Virginia, and this pretty much outlines how to set up the description code, how to set up that unit calculation rule, how to set up the duration calculation rule, the service authorization, so on and so forth. And again, we walk you through that process. I would say for the billing standpoint, it usually takes about 2 calls, maybe 3, depending on how many individuals you have. But we're always there for support, even after you have created claims, sent claims. If you have a denial or need to send in a replacement claim or a void, that's something that we're always there for constant support. And then here's that Virginia webpage, and you can click on that user guide, and it says EVV billing right here. And that's it. Any questions? Let's see.
Any update on linking the ISP data case notes to EVV so billing staff can assure notes are completed before billing for services? That's a beautiful question. Who wants to address that?
I can or Mimi can. Do you want me to, Mimi?
Yeah. I'll jump.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to show you guys like a little sneak peek on the support page.
We're all very excited about.
Yes, good question, Kim. I know you've been waiting for this. You want to view those release notes. Okay. And then here's that release notes that's upcoming soon. That's that countdown that's on your dashboard. And you can see right here, ISP data from EVV. Okay, so you're going to want to meet with your T&I specialist, which would be Mimi, to these ISP programs to be compatible with EVV. I just want to put in that disclaimer that it's not a validation. So if there is an if you have it in, and correct me if I'm saying it, Mimi, if staff does not complete the note, even though it's in there, like even though that ISP is created, and you do not complete the note, you can still generate billing. We have talked to the programmers about that. Any support or any feedback you guys can give to our programmers as well, or that support and feedback saying that you want that validation to be there so that if the ISP is not done, then you can't create that billing data. Then we absolutely want you to, say that. But anything you want to add, Mimi?
Kudos to Kim. I'm sure she read the release notes. That's the reason why she came up with that wonderful question. So that lets me know that you're actually reading those release notes. And if you didn't, wonderful, still a great question. I always recommend providers take a look at those release notes because it lets you know what are those changes that are up and coming that might either affect the way you document or the way your workflow is for your organization. Okay. Again, yes, it will be tied. However, you still want to run those reports to ensure that staff is doing their documentation. Okay. And it's basically just letting them to be able to go in and do their documentation right through the scheduling module. Okay. It'll be right within there. So, it doesn't mean that just because they've checked in and checked out that all of a sudden now it captures kind of like the information that staff was able to provide services and all of the answers on the ISP goal says yes. No, they still have to go in and do their documentation. But as Tony did mention, reach out to us. Let us go ahead and assist you if you have any additional questions that maybe have not been answered during this webinar. And again, I don't know, Julie, do you have Basecamp for Virginia at all?
Right now, we are cleaning up, checking emails. So if you do get an email from Casey Wilson, please respond to that you do have a verified email so we can add you to Basecamp.
Yeah, it's a great way for you to communicate not only with us, But it's a way for you to communicate with other Virginia providers on how they're actually capturing documentation, or maybe some workarounds as far as how they're communicating with staff when it comes to policy and procedures. That's the wonderful thing about Basecamp. Again, read your release notes. If you have any questions, reach out to us through either help and support or the feedback, the My Issues section, or feel free to use the live help so that we can just simply have a quick chat with you, send you a link of information. If we have to jump onto a GoToMeeting and troubleshoot with you, we will if we do have that time. But again, we won't know that you are facing any difficulties if you're not reaching out and letting us know. That's all I have.
Does anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you, Tony, for putting that up.
Yeah, no problem. And they also have the webinar too that's attached to those release notes.
Yeah, Sherry, we will add you to Basecamp as soon as we get all the emails cleaned up and verify everyone's emails. We'll certainly send you an invitation. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Okay, well, we're going to give you back some time today. If you do have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself, to Mimi, or Tony Ann in regards to your questions. We'd love to be able to support you, and we're excited. Thank you both so very much. You did a fabulous job in regards to sharing this great information. And if you do have a service that requires EVV, please don't hesitate to reach out. So there's a lot of information. Where will this be located to look back on? We are recording and we will put this up. Yes?
Yep, go to your Virginia State page and it should be recorded. The link will be over to the right-hand side webinar.
Great. Great questions. Thank you all for participating. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your Friday to join with us. Be safe, take care, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.